The crystal wine glass shattered against the wall, mere inches from my head. I flinched, my heart racing as I stared at my mother-in-law, Carol, her face contorted with rage. "How dare you speak to me that way in my own home?" she shrieked, her perfectly manicured finger pointing accusingly at me. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Carol, I've had enough of your constant criticism and meddling. This may be your house, but I'm your son's wife and I deserve respect." The tension in the dining room was palpable. My husband, Mike, sat frozen at the table, his eyes darting between his mother and me. The other dinner guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats, clearly wishing they were anywhere but here. Carol's nostrils flared as she advanced towards me. "Respect? You want respect? You've done nothing but try to drive a wedge between me and my son since the day you married him." I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. "That's not true, and you know it. I've bent over backwards trying to please you, but nothing is ever good enough." "Nora, please," Mike finally spoke up, his voice weak and pleading. "Can't we just have a nice family dinner?" I turned to him, disbelief etched on my face. "Are you kidding me? Your mother just threw a glass at my head and you're worried about dinner?" Carol smirked, sensing her son's support. "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Always making a scene, always the victim." "Mom, that's enough," Mike said, but his tone lacked any real conviction. I felt a surge of anger and disappointment. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I thought Mike would finally stand up to his mother and defend me. But here he was, meekly trying to placate both sides instead of taking a stand. "You know what?" I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "I'm done. I'm not going to sit here and be treated like this anymore." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, pausing to address the stunned dinner guests. "I'm sorry you had to witness this. Enjoy your meal." As I reached for the doorknob, I heard Mike's chair scrape against the floor. "Nora, wait!" I turned, a glimmer of hope rising in my chest. Maybe he was finally going to choose me over his mother. But as I met his eyes, I saw only confusion and fear. "Where are you going? You can't just leave." "Watch me," I replied, my voice cold. As I stepped out into the cool night air, I heard Carol's voice drift from the dining room. "Let her go, Michael. She'll come crawling back. She always does." The door slammed behind me, cutting off any response Mike might have made. I stood on the porch for a moment, my hands shaking as the reality of what had just happened washed over me. For years I'd put up with Carol's subtle jabs and manipulations, always hoping that Mike would see through her act and stand by me. But tonight had made it crystal clear where his loyalties truly lay. As I walked to my car, I felt a strange mix of anger, sadness, and relief. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I'd finally stood up for myself, even if it meant standing alone. I slid into the driver's seat and gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. Where would I go? What would I do now? The questions swirled in my mind, but one thing was certain. I couldn't go back to the way things were. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Please come back. We can work this out." I stared at the message, tears blurring my vision. Part of me wanted to turn around, to believe that things could change, but a stronger part knew that this was just the beginning of a long, difficult journey. I put the phone down and pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind the house that had never truly felt like home. As I drove into the night, I realized that for the first time in years, I was steering my own course, and it felt exhilarating. I stared at Mike across the kitchen table, my coffee growing cold between my hands. His eyes were pleading, but I couldn't shake the memory of that disastrous dinner party 2 weeks ago. "Nora, please, this job offer is a fresh start for us," Mike said, sliding a glossy brochure towards me. "We could leave all this drama behind." I picked up the brochure, eyeing the picturesque suburban homes. "And your mother, what about her?" Mike sighed, running a hand through his hair. "She'll stay here, of course. This is our chance to build our own life away from influences." The word hung in the air between us. I wanted to believe him, to hope that this could be the solution to our problems, but doubt gnawed at me. "Okay," I said finally, "let's look at some houses." The relief on Mike's face was palpable. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away, not quite ready for that level of reconciliation. The next weekend found us driving through tree-lined streets, following a chirpy realtor named Brenda. As we toured house after house, I felt a glimmer of excitement. Maybe this really could be our fresh start, but then I noticed something odd. In each house, Mike would pull out his phone, snapping pictures of certain rooms or features. "What are you doing?" I asked as we left the third house. "Oh, just getting some opinions," he said vaguely. My stomach twisted. "From who?" Mike avoided my gaze. "Just family." I knew exactly which family he meant. As we entered the fourth house, my phone buzzed. A text from Carol. "That kitchen is far too small for entertaining. And those carpets. Tell Michael to keep looking." I nearly dropped my phone. "Mike," I hissed, "have you been sending pictures to your mother this whole time?" He had the decency to look sheepish. "She just wants to help, Nora. She has great taste." "This isn't her house," I snapped, louder than I intended. Brenda, who had been chattering about crown molding, fell silent. "Is everything all right?" she asked, her smile faltering. "It's fine," Mike said quickly. "Nora's just a bit overwhelmed. Maybe we could have a moment?" Brenda nodded and stepped outside. As soon as the door closed, I rounded on Mike. "I thought this move was about us, about getting away from your mother's influence, but you're letting her dictate our choices before we've even moved." Mike's face hardened. "She's not dictating anything. I'm just getting her opinion. Why are you always so threatened by her?" "Threatened?" I laughed bitterly. "Mike, she threw a glass at my head 2 weeks ago, and you barely said a word. Now you're letting her choose our house from hundreds of miles away." "That's not fair," Mike protested. "I'm trying to make everyone happy." "Everyone except me," I said, my voice breaking. "When are you going to put our marriage first?" Mike's phone buzzed. We both stared at it, knowing who it was. "Go ahead," I said coldly. "Answer her. It's clear whose opinion matters most to you." I stormed out of the house, brushing past a startled Brenda. As I stood on the perfectly manicured lawn, I felt a surge of anger and disappointment. This move was supposed to be our chance to break free, to start over. Instead, it was just more of the same. Mike emerged from the house, his face a mix of frustration and concern. "Nora, please, let's not do this here." I turned to face him, my decision crystallizing. "You're right. We shouldn't do this here. In fact, maybe we shouldn't do this at all." "What do you mean?" Mike asked, a note of panic in his voice. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I mean, maybe this move isn't the answer. Maybe the problem isn't where we live, but who we are when we're together." As the words left my mouth, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in years, I was being completely honest, with Mike and with myself. Mike's face paled. "Nora, you can't mean..." But I did mean it. As I stood there on that perfect suburban street, I realized that no change of scenery could fix what was broken between us. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to try anymore. I paced our living room, my nerves frayed as I waited for Mike to return from work. The events of the house-hunting disaster played on repeat in my mind. I needed answers, and I needed them now. The front door creaked open, and Mike stepped in, his tie loosened and fatigue etched on his face. He froze when he saw me. "Nora," he said cautiously. "I thought you'd be asleep by now." I crossed my arms. "We need to talk, Mike. About the move, about your mother, about us." He sighed, dropping his briefcase. "Can't this wait until morning? I'm exhausted." "No," I said firmly. "It can't." Mike slumped onto the couch, and I sat across from him, my heart racing. "I can't do this anymore," I began. "Your mother's constant interference, you always taking her side. I thought this move was our chance to start fresh, but it's clear nothing's going to change." Mike leaned forward, his eyes pleading. "Nora, I promise, things will be different once we move. Mom won't be living with us. It'll just be you and me." I laughed bitterly. "Really?" "Because, from what I've seen, she's already picking out our curtains from hundreds of miles away." "That's not fair," Mike protested. "She's just trying to help." "Help?" I stood up, my voice rising. "Mike, she's controlling every aspect of our lives, and you're letting her." Mike's face hardened. "You're overreacting. Mom's not going to live with us. I've already told her that." A glimmer of hope sparked in my chest. "You have?" He nodded. "Yes, I made it clear that this is our home, not hers." I wanted to believe him, desperately, but doubt still gnawed at me. "And she accepted that?" Mike hesitated, just for a moment, but it was enough. My heart sank. "Mike," I said slowly, "what aren't you telling me?" He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my gaze. She might have suggested that we set up a guest room for her. You know, for extended visits. The room seemed to tilt. Extended visits? How extended are we talking about? Mike shrugged, looking uncomfortable. A few weeks at a time, maybe. She just wants to be close to us, Nora. I felt like I couldn't breathe. A few weeks? Mike, that's not visiting. That's practically living with us. You're exaggerating, he said, his tone dismissive. It won't be that bad. Something inside me snapped. Not that bad? Mike, your mother has made my life hell for years, and you've done nothing to stop it, and now you want to give her a permanent place in our new home? Mike stood up, anger flashing in his eyes. That's enough. I'm sick of you always attacking my mother. She's family, Nora. Why can't you understand that? I'm your family, too, I shouted, tears stinging my eyes. Or at least, I thought I was. A heavy silence fell between us. Mike's phone buzzed, and I knew without looking who it was. Go ahead, I said, my voice cold. Answer her. It's clear she's the most important woman in your life. Mike's face softened. Nora, please, you know that's not true. I love you. I shook my head, a terrible realization dawning. No, Mike, you love the idea of me, the wife who fits perfectly into your life, who never challenges your mother's authority, but that's not who I am. I moved towards the stairs, suddenly feeling exhausted. I'm going to bed. We'll finish packing tomorrow, but I want you to know, I'm not okay with your mother having free reign in our new home. If you can't set boundaries with her, then... I left the sentence hanging, unable to voice the ultimatum forming in my mind. As I climbed the stairs, I heard Mike's muffled voice answering his phone. Hi, Mom, he said. No, everything's fine, just a little disagreement. I closed the bedroom door, shutting out his voice. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized that the move we'd hoped would bring us closer together might just be the thing that tears us apart for good. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving me alone in our new driveway. I should have felt excited, hopeful even, but all I felt was dread. This house, our supposed fresh start, already felt tainted. I trudged inside, boxes piled high in every room. Mike was at work, conveniently absent for the heavy lifting. As I started unpacking the kitchen, my phone buzzed. Carol's name flashed on the screen. I ignored it, but it buzzed again, and again. Finally, I answered. Hello, Carol. Nora, dear. Her voice dripped with false sweetness. I hope the move went smoothly. I was just calling to let you know I've ordered some lovely curtains for the living room. They'll arrive tomorrow. I gripped the phone tighter. Carol, we didn't ask you to order curtains. Oh, don't be silly. I saw how bare the windows looked in Mike's photos. I couldn't let my son live like that. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. We appreciate the thought, but Mike and I will choose our own curtains. Carol's tone sharpened. Now, Nora, don't be ungrateful. I'm only trying to help. We don't need your help, I snapped, my patience finally breaking. This is our home, not yours. I hung up, my hands shaking. As if on cue, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a delivery man holding a large box. Delivery for Carol Johnson, he said. I stared at the box, realization dawning. That's not me, but I know who it's for. I signed for the package, then dragged it inside. Tearing it open, I found an ornate, floral-patterned comforter set. A note fluttered to the floor. For the guest room. Can't wait to visit. Love, Mom. Red clouded my vision. I stormed upstairs to what was supposed to be my home office, only to find it already set up as a guest room. Mike's doing, no doubt. I was still seething when Mike came home hours later. He walked in, a forced smile on his face. Hey, honey, how was the move? I held up the comforter. Care to explain this? Mike's smile faltered. Oh, that. Mom thought it would be nice for when she visits. Visits? I laughed bitterly. Mike, she's already treating this place like her second home, and you're letting her. He sighed, loosening his tie. Nora, please, can't we just enjoy our new home without fighting? How can I enjoy it when your mother's presence is everywhere? I gestured around wildly. The curtains, the guest room, the constant calls and texts. It's suffocating. Mike's face hardened. You're being dramatic. Mom's just trying to help. Help, I exploded. Mike, she's taking over our lives, and you're too blind to see it. That's enough, Mike shouted, his face red. I'm sick of your constant attacks on my mother. She's family, Nora. Why can't you accept that? Because she doesn't treat me like family, I cried, tears stinging my eyes. And neither do you. A heavy silence fell between us. Mike's phone buzzed. Carol, of course. He glanced at it, then back at me. Go ahead, I said coldly. Answer it. It's clear whose opinion matters most to you. Mike hesitated, then picked up the phone. Hi, Mom. No, everything's fine. I couldn't bear to hear more. I grabbed my purse and car keys, heading for the door. Nora, where are you going? Mike called after me. I paused at the threshold, turning to face him. I don't know, but I can't stay here right now. I need to think. As I drove away from our new house, tears blurring my vision, I realized I was at a crossroads. I couldn't keep living like this, constantly battling for my place in my own marriage. Something had to change. But as the familiar streets gave way to unknown territory, I wondered if there was anything left to save, or if perhaps it was time to chart a new course, one that didn't include Mike or his overbearing mother. The road stretched out before me, full of uncertainty and possibility. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't go back to the way things were. It was time to take control of my own life, no matter the cost. I pulled into our driveway, exhausted after spending the night at a nearby hotel. The house loomed before me, no longer a symbol of new beginnings, but a monument to broken promises. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car, ready to face whatever awaited me inside. As I approached the front door, I noticed something odd. A pair of floral suitcases sat on the porch, ones I'd never seen before. My stomach churned as I recognized the gaudy pattern. It was Carol's signature style. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking as I unlocked the door. The house was eerily quiet. Mike? I called out, my voice echoing through the empty rooms. No answer. I made my way upstairs, dread building with each step. As I reached the landing, I heard muffled voices coming from the guest room, the room that was supposed to be my office. I pushed the door open, and the scene before me made my blood run cold. Carol stood in the center of the room, directing Mike as he assembled a large wardrobe. They both froze when they saw me, guilt written all over their faces. Nora? Mike exclaimed, scrambling to his feet. You're back? We didn't expect you so soon. I couldn't speak. My eyes darted from the half-built wardrobe to Carol's smug expression, to the piles of her clothes neatly folded on the bed. Carol broke the silence, her voice sickly sweet. Surprise, dear. I thought I'd come help you settle in. Mike said it would be fine if I stayed for a while. The room spun. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. A while? I managed to choke out. Mike stepped towards me, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Now, Nora, don't overreact. Mom's just here to help us get settled. It's temporary. Temporary? I laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. Mike, she's building a wardrobe. She's unpacking her clothes. This isn't temporary. This is moving in. Carol clucked her tongue. Really, Nora, there's no need for dramatics. I'm only trying to help. You should be grateful. Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up frustration and anger came pouring out. Grateful? For what? For taking over my home? For manipulating my husband? For making me feel like an outsider in my own marriage? Mike's face hardened. That's enough, Nora. You're being disrespectful. I stared at him, disbelief and betrayal washing over me. In that moment, I saw him clearly for the first time, not as the man I loved, but as a puppet dancing to his mother's tune. No, Mike, I said, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. What's disrespectful is breaking your promises to me. What's disrespectful is putting your mother's wishes above your wife's. What's disrespectful is this. I gestured around the room, at the life they were building without me. Carol stepped forward, her eyes glinting with triumph. Now, dear, let's not say things we can't take back. Why don't you go downstairs and make us all some tea? We can discuss this like adults. That was the final straw. I straightened up, meeting Carol's gaze head-on. No, I don't think I will. In fact, I don't think I'll be doing anything for either of you ever again. I turned to Mike, my heart breaking even as I spoke the words. I want a divorce. The silence that followed was deafening. Mike's face paled, while Carol's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Nora, you can't mean that, Mike stammered. We can work this out. Please just... I held up my hand, cutting him off. No, Mike, we can't. This isn't a marriage anymore. It's a dictatorship, and I refuse to be a subject in Carol's kingdom. With those words, I turned and walked out of the room, out of the house, and towards an uncertain but liberated future. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Mike and Carol in the rearview mirror, standing on the porch looking lost. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. I was finally free. I sat across from Mike and his lawyer in the sterile conference room, my own attorney a steady presence beside me. The weight of my wedding ring, now absent from my finger, seemed to linger like a phantom limb. "Mrs. Johnson," Mike's lawyer began, his voice dripping with condescension, "I hope you understand the gravity of your decision. A divorce will have significant financial implications for both parties." I met his gaze steadily. "I'm well aware, Mr. Daniels, and it's Ms. Evans now." Mike flinched at that, but I pressed on. "I think it's time we discuss the house." Mr. Daniels shuffled his papers. "Ah, yes, the marital home. My client is prepared to buy out your share." "That won't be possible," I interrupted, my heart racing. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Mike leaned forward, confusion etched on his face. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "What I mean, Mike, is that without my financial contribution, you can't afford that house. Not on your salary alone." The color drained from Mike's face as the implications sank in. Mr. Daniels sputtered. "Surely there's some arrangement." "There isn't," my lawyer interjected smoothly. "Miss Evans' name is on the mortgage. Her income was a significant factor in securing the loan. Without her, the bank will likely foreclose." Mike's eyes widened in panic. But my mother, she said she'd help." I couldn't help but laugh, the sound bitter even to my own ears. "Your mother, Mike? The same mother who's been living rent-free in our guest room? The one who's never worked a day in her life? That mother?" "This is ridiculous," Mr. Daniels blustered. "Surely we can come to some agreement." "The only agreement," I said firmly, "is that the house needs to be sold. We'll split the proceeds minus my initial down payment, which I'll be reclaiming in full." Mike slumped in his chair, the reality of the situation finally hitting him. "Nora, please," he begged, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can work this out. I'll tell Mom to leave. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't do this." For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but then I remembered all the broken promises, all the times he'd chosen his mother over me. My resolve hardened. "It's too late for that, Mike. You had your chance. Years of chances, actually. But you never chose me. Not once." Mr. Daniels cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess." "No," I said firmly. "We're finishing this now. I want everything in writing. The sale of the house, the division of assets, everything." As the lawyers began drafting the agreement, Mike stared at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of desperation and dawning realization. "What am I going to tell Mom?" he murmured. I stood up, gathering my things. "That's not my problem anymore, Mike. For once in your life, you're going to have to stand up to her on your own." As I walked out of the conference room, I heard Mike's muffled sobs behind me. Part of me wanted to turn back, to comfort him as I had so many times before. But I kept walking, my steps growing more confident with each passing moment. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges I couldn't even imagine yet, but for the first time in as long as I could remember, I was facing that future on my own terms. As I drove away from the lawyer's office, leaving behind the remnants of my old life, I realized that this wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my freedom. And despite the pain and uncertainty, I couldn't wait to see what that freedom would bring. The doorbell rang, shattering the peace of my small apartment. I knew who it was before I even reached the door. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself and opened it. Mike stood there, looking disheveled and desperate. "Nora, please, we need to talk." I hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. As he entered, I noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the rumpled clothes. He looked like a man on the edge. "What do you want, Mike?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing my small living room. "I've made a terrible mistake, Nora. I see that now. Please, give me another chance. I'll do anything." I crossed my arms, my resolve wavering for just a moment. "Anything?" "Yes." He grabbed my hands, his eyes pleading. "I'll tell Mom to back off. I'll set boundaries. Hell, I'll cut her off completely if that's what it takes. Just please don't go through with this divorce." For a split second, I allowed myself to imagine it. A life where Mike finally stood up to his mother, where we could be happy together. But then reality came crashing back. And how long would that last, Mike? I asked, gently pulling my hands away. A week? A month? How long before you start feeling guilty and let her back in? His face fell. It won't be like that this time, I promise. I shook my head, a sad smile on my face. You've made that promise before, many times, and you've broken it every single time. Mike's desperation turned to anger. What do you want from me, Nora? I'm trying here. Now, I said, my own anger rising. You're trying now, after years of putting your mother first, of dismissing my feelings, of making me feel like an outsider in my own marriage. Why now, Mike? Is it because you're finally facing consequences? He flinched as if I'd slapped him. That's not fair. Isn't it? I challenged. Tell me, if I hadn't threatened divorce, if I hadn't pointed out that you can't afford the house without me, would you be here right now, making these promises? His silence was answer enough. I took a deep breath, steadying myself for what I knew I had to say. Mike, I appreciate that you're trying. I really do. But it's too late. The trust between us is broken, and I don't think it can be repaired. Please, he whispered, tears in his eyes. I love you. Those words, once so precious to me, now felt hollow. I know you do, Mike, in your way, but love isn't enough. Not when it comes with conditions, not when it's always second to someone else's demands. He slumped onto my couch, defeat written across his features. What am I supposed to do without you? For a moment I felt a surge of sympathy, but I pushed it down, reminding myself of all the times I'd felt lost and alone in our marriage. You'll figure it out, Mike. You're stronger than you think, and maybe this is your chance to figure out who you are outside of your mother's influence. He looked up at me, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. I've really messed everything up, haven't I? I nodded, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Yes, you have, but it's not too late to start over. Just not with me. Mike stood up slowly, looking around my apartment as if seeing it for the first time. This is really it, isn't it? We're really over. Yes, I said softly. We are. As I showed him to the door, he turned to me one last time. I'm sorry, Nora, for everything. I gave him a small smile. I know, I'm sorry too. As the door closed behind him, I leaned against it, tears finally falling, but they weren't tears of sadness or regret. They were tears of relief, of release. I had faced my final test, stood my ground against the man I had once thought was my soulmate, and I had come out stronger. As I wiped my eyes and straightened up, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited to see where it might lead. My new life, my true life, was just beginning. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my blazer and taking a deep breath. It had been exactly 1 year since the divorce was finalized, and I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Gone was the timid, uncertain Nora who had let others dictate her life. In her place stood a confident, self-assured woman ready to take on the world. My phone buzzed with a text from my realtor. House is officially on the market. Thought you'd want to know. I felt a strange mix of emotions as I read those words. The house that was supposed to be our fresh start, the one that had become the final battleground of our marriage, was now up for sale. I couldn't help but wonder how Mike and Carol were handling it. As if on cue, my phone rang. Mike's name flashed on the screen. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, I answered, my voice steady. Nora, Mike's voice cracked. I don't know what to do. The house is on the market, and Mom, she's furious. She says I've ruined everything. I closed my eyes, fighting the urge to comfort him. I'm sorry you're struggling, Mike, but that's not my problem anymore. I know, he said softly. I wish I had listened to you. I wish I had been stronger. The old Nora would have melted at those words, would have rushed to his side, but not anymore. It's not too late to be strong now, Mike, I said firmly. You have a chance to build your own life, make your own choices. Don't waste it. There was a long pause before he spoke again. You're right. I'm proud of you, Nora, for standing up for yourself, for knowing your worth. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them away. Thank you, Mike. I hope you find that strength for yourself. As I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The last tie to my old life had been severed, and I was truly free. I grabbed my keys and headed out, ready to start my day. As I drove, I passed by our old neighborhood. On impulse, I turned down the street where the house stood. There it was, the for sale sign stark against the manicured lawn. I pulled over, staring at the house that had once held so many hopes and dreams. For a moment I let myself remember the excitement of moving in, the arguments, the heartbreak. But as I sat there, I realized something profound. That house, with all its painful memories, no longer held any power over me. Smiling, I put the car in drive and pulled away. I had a life to live, one that I had built for myself. I thought about my new job, the friends I had made, the hobbies I had rediscovered. Each one a testament to my resilience, my strength. As I arrived at my destination, a local community center where I volunteered teaching art classes to seniors, I felt a surge of gratitude. This was my life now, full of purpose and joy, unburdened by the expectations of others. I walked into the classroom, greeted by the smiling faces of my students. As I began the lesson, guiding them through brushstrokes and color choices, I realized that this moment of creativity, of connection, was worth every painful step of my journey. At the end of the class, one of my students, a kind-faced woman named Eleanor, approached me. "You know Nora," she said, her eyes twinkling. "I've been coming to these classes for months now, and I've never seen someone so alive. You have a light about you." I felt warmth spread through my chest at her words. "Thank you, Eleanor. I feel alive, more than I have in years." As I packed up my supplies, I caught a glimpse of myself in the classroom mirror. The woman looking back at me was smiling, her eyes bright with purpose and self-assurance. This was who I was meant to be all along. Stepping out into the sunshine, I felt a sense of excitement for what the future might hold. The road ahead was wide open, full of possibilities I had never dared to imagine before, and I was ready for all of it. For the first time in my life, I was truly, completely free, and it felt absolutely wonderful.